Just to preface this review, Final Fantasy XVI never looked interesting to me. The trailers never sold me on the story, combat, or overall premise. I never cared about the characters or their design in the slightest. I never understood while watching reactions when people would freak out and be super excited about this game, because it just naturally never held my attention. Which is fine. I received this game as a gift, and as someone who loves playing games, I played it. After not caring for this game at all, I gave it a chance. In fact, I gave it more than a chance, because I platinumed it. Turns out, my instincts were correct. I never really ended up liking this game. I switched difficulties, didn't use the accessibility rings, used different combinations of the accessibility rings, etc. I really tried to like it, I just didn't care for it. It's not even that I don't like Final Fantasy. I've played and enjoyed all of them to varying degrees. Final Fantasy VIII is my actual favorite game of all time. I don't need to read the comments about how since I like Final Fantasy VIII, that my opinion is already askew and invalid. I heard that already. My intentions are just to express my experience with the game, and how I took in everything. So yeah, cool your jets. Final Fantasy XVI is an action role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix and released on June 22nd of 2023. The game is very much a Final Fantasy game by having familiar spells, enemies, summons, and creatures. The gameplay in this installment is much more focused on action and being able to run around an open area while fighting your enemies. All of the drama you know and love that Final Fantasy bathes into their stories is here, and is expanded on by the game having state-of-the-art graphics and voice acting. Final Fantasy XVI is able to place its own fidelity within the franchise with ease, but it unfortunately misses the mark on everything else. The story starts off with the royal siblings Clive and Joshua, with Clive assuming his duty as his brother's bodyguard. Joshua has been blessed by the Eikon Phoenix and becomes its bearer. After being attacked by a neighboring kingdom while on a journey to a ceremony to awaken Joshua's powers fully, Clive and Joshua's father, Elwyn, is slain. Joshua goes on a fiery rampage as the Phoenix, and in his wake, destroys the surrounding area and people fighting. While Clive tries to save him, a mysterious icon, Ifrit, emerges onto the battlefield and stops the Phoenix wreaking havoc once and for all. Clive falls into a deep depression while he spends the rest of his waking life bent on revenge in a world that is falling apart amidst political affairs. The story plays out in an odd way. The format that it is told in makes it feel like separate chapters, and makes the entire plot feel disjointed. It reminds me of something like Wild Arms 3, but the format fit that game and the chapter-like progression felt ambitious and was appealing given the actual engaging storytelling. The story in Final Fantasy XVI is predictable and has unsurprising twists. The story beats are boring by the characters' drive, interactions, and motivations being underdeveloped or just uninteresting. The irregular pacing with the constant perspective switches is dull, and not only does the story move so slow to say what it wants to say, but it also leaves things out that it should say to get its point across in a more sensible fashion.
You're a shield of Rosaria after all, and blessed by the Phoenix.
Besides not liking the direction with the chapter-like segmented plot, I also didn't like the whole based-out dilemma in gameplay. Much like God of War Ragnarok, you are mainly stationed at a base and then go off into different areas of the land from there to complete quests and follow the story. I think telling stories like this feels too sporadic and causes actions of characters to not feel significant. I like more adventuring tales with a clear cut-out journey and a through line that is met between the story elements and character arcs. Coming back to a hub area feels too safe, mitigates a lot of plot points, and makes everything a little less serious or hold any weight. especially with the story that Final Fantasy XVI is trying to tell. Besides the story just being weak as it is, there are many other factors that drive me to this opinion. The uninteresting characters make the story that much more worse and make it feel incredibly cheesy. The game has a lot of cool moments that aren't earned because there's not enough moments to build up to them and make them worth it. That alone makes it all feel really lame and embarrassing. Even the extreme and incredible spectacle of the cool moments can't save them. The intimidation of the villains is terribly feeble, which then doesn't provide me as the player with any kind of drive to commit to the game. The game feels like it was made for streamers. Not to knock down streamers or anything, but there are so many irking scenes where they are clearly expecting ooh and ah types of reactions and moments to cry to. It makes the game feel fake and lacking spirit. I know it's a Final Fantasy, but the entirety of the plot is just political affairs, religion, political affairs, mighty deities, political affairs, magic, and political affairs, which gets old after a while.
Heart.
The characters in Final Fantasy XVI are completely sauceless. Clive has no identity or personality. He is as fascinating as a 2x4 plank of wood. When the game starts off with Clive younger, it seemed like he might have a shred of something compelling, as if it were being hinted that there may be something interesting with his character. But it literally stops there. Clive's meager interactions with the world are so bare bones. The game is non-stop talking and is mostly people trying to convince you as the player that Clive is actually reacting to situations appropriately when he simply isn't. Lightning from Final Fantasy XIII was clearly cruel. Squall from Final Fantasy VIII was clearly aloof and annoyed at everything. Here, in Final Fantasy XVI, Clive is just emotionless, and the game shouldn't rely on the world to tell the player how the main character is actually feeling. The main character should show it themselves.
What have we here? More insects come to be squashed? You will find my mortar and I only too happy to oblige. Do the talk, eh?
Then let's shut him up.
The gameplay consists of running around, fighting, talking to people, and then completing quests. Quests consist of fighting off monsters, buying items for people, or talking to even more people. You only control Clive, and playing as him feels fine enough. In the open fields, after you run for a little bit, Clive will start sprinting. Sprinting is very inconsistent, and a lot of the time it feels random. It is bizarre that there isn't just a dedicated sprint button or option. Side quests in Final Fantasy XVI are lame and short. They have no merit. You are constantly accepting quests, and there is an option to prioritize them, but there is no reason to, because it takes seconds to just walk over to the spot you need to be in to start the quest. The quests provide so little substance that you'll reach the quest complete screen in little to no time. The undesirability, shortness, and tediousness of most of the quests make a lot of them feel worthless to even finish. I wish the quests dealt more with the story and were interwoven with it in meaningful ways.
My friends and
Combat is fun, but feels unfulfilling. The action constantly stops for tutorials. It happens all throughout the game too, so it gets even more annoying the further you get into it. You can do basic attacks, heavy attacks, and some basic magic techniques. Clive is pretty fast on his feet, but even if he is fast, the combat feels slow. Fights last a little too long at times. You can level up Clive by gaining experience and unlocking new moves by selecting different nodes on the skill tree. You also gain different Eikon abilities, which change up the style of play drastically, allowing for more interesting and devastating attacks and combos. It feels cool pulling off different combos, releasing havoc, and winning battles, but it never gave me that tactile feeling I wanted with it. I couldn't really get absorbed in it because of that, which is fine, and it makes it feel very actiony, but it felt a little odd because of that, even if the combat is enjoyable.
Just what I needed.
Actually gaining the Eikon powers feels trite and hardly ever earned. It feels forced. Eikon battles are large, explosive, otherworldly spectacles that are all flash and no substance. They may be important story-wise, but are just lame ways to make Final Fantasy summons over-the-top theatrical. Instead of summons during a fight, they act more like Gundams, which sounds good on paper, but is incredibly whack when applied practically. The name of their attacks pop up during the dramatic scenes too, to make you go, ooh, ooh, they are doing the thing, it's doing a signature move. It feels so insincere. Graphically, Final Fantasy XVI looks great. Phenomenal even. There is something about it that makes it look super crisp. It's almost as if you can smell the breeze blowing across the mountainsides and the swamp water evaporating off of the individual leaves of bushes. It's actually pretty insane. The game does suffer from constant frame rate drops, which is a huge bummer. It took me out constantly throughout my entire time playing the game. Character designs feel uninspired. Their outfits overall are all dull aside from some characters who seem like their entire personality may just be the color green or yellow. It's not like it's terrible or it's that big of a deal, it's just that all the muted colors and boring designs doesn't make anything or anyone stand out. I also don't like how bulky Clive's top half is compared to his bottom. He looks too awkward and top heavy. Enemy designs are okay at best, and suffer the same fate as the characters design-wise. Most of the bosses in the game look too cool for school though, and I wish everything else was fashioned in that manner. Your trusty companion Torgal will assist you in battle. Torgal is a dog that Clive has had since Torgal was a pup, and they have been inseparable ever since. Well, that's what the game would try to make you think anyway. It seems like Clive never cares for the dog. Jill seems to be more attached to it than him. I thought Torgal was Jill's dog for the longest time until I got to some Torgal side quests and figured it out. Torgal in combat simply sucks. It is not fun commanding him. It's cumbersome to move your hand in the way the game wants you to give commands to Torgal. It hurt my thumb. Sure, there's the accessibility ring that you can equip that makes him attack automatically, but that can work against you. Torgal can heal you, attack normally, or throw enemies up into the air for you to juggle. Torgal going off the rails and doing whatever he wants sometimes can mess you up. Plus, using the ring that automatically controls Torgal is using up a useful accessory spot where something else could be slotted in instead. I could have simply not used Torgal, but the chip damage that he does can really add up, and the opportunities he provides are sometimes pivotal in winning a battle, so you're almost hurting yourself if you don't slam the Torgal buttons. So I had to do what I had to do. RIP my thumb.
Holding back. There, boy! Give them all you've got, boy! Don't let them get away!
Torgal in general just has very little significance in the story. I thought he would be more relevant or have some actual interactions with Clive besides like one in-game side quest, kinda. The dogs in Final Fantasy XV, Prina and Umbra, at least had a purpose. Torgal learns how to transform late into the game, but nothing really happens. You're left wondering, that's it? The characters even brush it off to figure it out later, but they never do. If you go into the logs of data on Torgal, it explains that Torgal is an extra rare dog. That's it. I wish I was kidding. He's just a shiny dog. So you may think there's more of a purpose with a transformation, right? Well, Torgal can randomly transform during battles, and I guess his attacks are stronger or something? He never transformed again during my entire first playthrough. I noticed he did once on my second playthrough, but there was absolutely no difference made. Apparently there's invisible factors that make Torgal transform in battle. I don't know. The entire situation and mechanic is just odd to me. As you can tell, I'm not too fond of Torgal. The last trophy I got before the platinum was the trophy for petting him 5 times.
Where would I be without you?
Final Fantasy XVI's music is all lofty and grand, but lacks impact or effect. The game's music overall gave me a similar feeling like the first time I played Final Fantasy XIII, but the music in Final Fantasy XIII is more memorable. The music played during every Eikon battle is the same, which makes the fights feel less unique. Even though it is triumphant, it does not couple with the tense situations and it ruins them by providing levity. It confuses you on how you should feel about the situation and the drama that is transpiring. It feels like parts of the music are being played at the wrong time. There are other things I took note of during my time with Final Fantasy XVI. There are these items that you automatically get in the game called seals, and they are the dumbest thing in the game. After doing so many story quests for someone, they will give you a seal so you can pass a gate or something that leads you to the next area of the game, but it would make no difference if they didn't exist. I would understand if it happened once for story reasons or whatever, but you are given these things constantly, as if it is some gameplay mechanic you need to worry about or rely on. You are going to that new area to complete the game anyway, so it's just weird for someone to give you an item so you can pass to somewhere you are going anyway. It happens all throughout the game. It's such a bizarre choice to have. Like, I could get behind talking to someone and them saying that only club members have access to that area and you need a seal to pass. Or fighting secret merchants along your path throughout the game, but you can only gain access to the black market with items that you can't gain otherwise by having a seal by completing optional quests. But it's so weird to just have main story mission characters give you an item so you can continue the story. That's what I was doing this entire time talking to you. The item is useless. Then Clive says something so jaded like, "I shall wear it with pride." Like, what? Why? Seriously, Clive? There is a small jail scene that plays out, and it is awfully needless. Clive gets captured because Jill is in danger, so he gets put into a jail cell. The next scene plays with Clive sulking in his cell, and one of his teammates comes up, kills the guard, and gives him his weapon and stuff back. You then proceed to walk out of the building, back into the same spot you were just fighting in, and through the door the enemy took Jill. There is just no flavor here. They don't ever give anything time to breathe, so there's no tension or stress. Events are just constantly happening, leaving me to just watch and not care. Putting this side by side with something like Final Fantasy VIII's jail section opens your eyes to the horrible pacing in Final Fantasy XVI. They are incomparable by design because of it. The game constantly introduces you to new things. I'm not really sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, as on one hand, it gets extremely annoying having to deal with pop-ups all the time, but on the other, it's nice to have different things you can do. But a lot of the things they introduce and what pops up is stuff you already know about, so it's more aggravating than anything. There are also cringy moments where characters will be talking about something, disperse, and the camera will cut away, showing that a mysterious figure was watching and listening the entire time as the evil laugh and slither away. It feels so elementary and contrasts the more serious palette the game is trying to present. I know it sounds like I'm just an old man yelling at clouds, but it's just how I feel. Not saying anything in a complaining manner, it's just my genuine experience with the game.
Now, rats, lead me to your nest. Lord Kupka has a message for your leader. If only he knew where to send it.
During the 2024 Final Fantasy PAX East panel, the Rising Tide DLC, involving a huge new area including the place where Jill is from, was introduced along with some changes and additions to the main game, as well with a 1.30 update to the game. Quest icons are updated to highlight the importance of quests. There are now equipment and ability sets that you can change and cycle between. Abilities and accessories have gotten adjustment. There are new photo mode effects. You can fully customize the button layout now. Goodbye, Torgal struggles. More music has been added. There's a side quest dealing more with Clive's bearer mark, and more, including an extra boss fight if you go through the new gauntlet style mode on the hardest difficulty, and a new quest after completing the game, as well as completing the 2 DLCs. The way the game is now being fleshed out could have solved my issues or provided some padding, but alas, I guess I played it too soon. I did enjoy the overall vibes of Final Fantasy XVI. Like I said earlier, it gave me a similar feeling that I had while playing Final Fantasy XIII for the first time. It felt cozy waking up early or staying up late and jumping into this world. I really liked running around the rich environments and fighting enemies at times. Final Fantasy XVI is a nonchalant, relaxing game to play. It just sort of feels right to play. Because of this though, it is easy to get drowsy while playing. Maybe because the game doesn't offer any definite stakes, so it never feels like you have anything to lose. I don't get why it's so popular. It feels too mainstream, as dumb as that sounds, and garnered to people seeking reactions. I just don't get it.
Indeed, the faithful consider ether a sinful thing, a poison no less. And to them, a dominant is an instrument of evil, albeit one they have proven only too happy to turn against their enemies.
Final Fantasy XVI is probably one of my least favorite Final Fantasy games, but I did have some fun. The combat can provide some cool moments with physical and magical combos and finishers, and the environments look incredible. Running around the world is pleasurable, and the game is a nice game to play on the side. The severe lack of depth and originality really left me unsatisfied. Character designs, character introductions, characters' actions and goals, monotone voice acting, overall gameplay, the story in general, side quests, uneventful music, and everything in between leaves more to be desired. As much as I tried, I can't get behind this game at all. I give Final Fantasy XVI a 4.5 out of 10.
I don't like this.